Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about three very interesting and very different items. So we've got the stock of Stonks, booster cookies, and ender dragons. So I'm going to be going over what the stock of Stonks is, why it's such an interesting item, and what my thoughts of investing on it are. Because I know a lot of you guys see this item, see this amazing return, especially from right around July, right at the start of July, right? Pick here, right at 150k, and current prices it's almost tripled. Not quite, but it's gotten quite high. And it did triple for a bit if you go up here. And so you're like, wow, this item, its legacy has no more supply. It's probably going to keep going up in price, right? Well, we'll get to my thoughts on that in a second. So I'm going to look at these two items first. And the main one that we're going to look at first is Ender Dragons because it has the oldest chart. It's the more original of the two. So you can see here, Ender Dragons first released, and you can see the price keeps trending up. And this was due to more demand. Ender Dragons were realized to be better than people first thought. They are more useful and were almost essential if you want to be the best in the game at this time. You couldn't do dragons without them, and Slayers were like twice as fast with an Ender Dragon, right? There was nothing that could compete, like at all, with Ender Dragon. And then we got to a point where the price was so high, and everyone that wanted an Ender Dragon, everyone endgame that needed it, had one. So the price kind of plateaued here and started to go down. Even though dungeons and stuff has been out, it just wasn't out enough, right? Like there wasn't enough new demand. So price goes down again. And we get to a bottom here. And what this uptrend here is, because it would have kept continuing down, is two things. First, we do have master mode dungeons. That added a little more demand, but not a ton because not very many people do master mode dungeons, right? And those people that did were already endgame. Most of them had an E-Drag. So we've got, why is it going up again? Well, we had a massive farming update and a huge problem with macroers and dupers in the game. And these introduced huge amount of coins into the economy. And so, especially the farming macroers due to netherword updates and everything around that. So we get this huge trend up where the price is going up without any new demand. It's all just inflation. And so that's kind of what's been happening in Skyblock lately, right? We've got the Dwarven Mines and BC selling and everything going up. And same with booster cookies. You look here around July 3rd is when Dwarven Mines and BC selling was realized to be insane. And then it just keeps going up and up and up. I mean, it wasn't discovered on this day, but that's when the charts reflect it, right? It's around the same here. If you look on July 1st, it's around right around the same time that this spikes up. And then if you go on this chart, kind of hard to tell because this has had such a huge expansion, such a jumpy chart, but it's the same thing. And so the question is, why wouldn't you buy an item like this with no supply and prices just going to keep going up, right? Well, that's not really true. The amount of new coins entering the economy has kept going up like this, right? Because at first it was farming, and it was a lot of farming, and then it was NPC selling from Dwarven Mines, and that's an increase in the amount of coins coming to the economy, which is why the chart keeps going up. But if you have a steady amount, which is what's happening right now, we've had a steady amount of coins entering the economy for a while now from Dwarven Mines selling and everything, which they're probably going to do something about soon, but or change in a way, the way NPC selling works, is that prices will plateau. You always have new coins entering the economy, and prices are going to have a point when they will plateau. Because if there's an infinite size of the economy, but only a set amount of coins coming in, the percent increase goes down. So this will plateau at one point. And that brings us back to this one. So in theory, this will plateau at one point, but also there's no real demand. The stock of Stonks is an interesting, cool niche item with no demand. Very few players will ever actually buy this, and if they do, they'll buy one to put on an item frame in their island. They're not going to be buying this as a long-term investment. So anyone that puts a substantial amount of money into this is pretty much locking their money away for just hoping that someone with more money than them in the future also has the same idea, right? And there's no real guarantee that that'll happen. It's not going up because there's more demand, because there isn't. The more people playing Skyblock doesn't mean more demand, because if you ask anyone that's playing, they probably have never purchased this item. They probably are like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool, but have never bought it. And that's the problem. The only people that buy it is people that think they can make money off of it. And that's where you kind of get to a pyramid scheme with these. And that's definitely what people have tried to do with it in the past. There's been a couple of spikes where they try and make it a pyramid scheme kind of thing. And you don't want to lock yourself in that. You might make money short term because it's been trending up for a while. Same booster cookies. It's probably not going to just immediately drop off. You might not buy at the very top. But the risk is you probably will buy here. It'll go up. And then it'll go down, right? And especially with something like this is, even if you don't buy at the very top, you probably are going to lose money long term. Or even if you don't, you end up buying here, you sell here. It's a lot of risk because there's no real demand for the item. So that's my thoughts on it. I wouldn't recommend investing in it. If you want an item right now to invest in, I recommend gold. It's at amazing prices. I personally just put a ton of money into it. I don't think any of it has filled. 152 mil. But if you look at the price, right, 174,000 per. And so when you look at that, let's say 150, 200. What am I doing? That's way too much. 700. So when you look at that and you look at the historical chart, you've got only one time ever in the chart that this shows, at least, where it's been cheaper than it is now, which is a week in May. And that's the only time it's ever been cheaper than it is now. And so that's kind of why it's a good item to buy. Not because it's been going up, but because it's gone down. And that's the thing that people don't realize is if something goes down, that's a good thing. That doesn't mean it's going to keep going down. If something's gone up, that might be a bad thing, because if it's gone up, that means it has potential to reverse what it's done. It has potential to go back down, especially if there's no increasing demand. Booster cookies will always have demand, but they just won't have the level that you've seen here due to the inflation that's been going on. So booster cookies, I'm not saying don't buy them. I personally have a lot of money in them. I have around 300 million coins in them. But I don't think this is going to continue. I think this little downtrend, it's probably worth buying now instead of buying here, right? You can make a couple 100,000 coins in the short term, but it's not going to keep trending up like this. It's going to plateau at some point. And that's the kind of thing to look out for with items like the stock of Stonks. Well, anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I think it's a cool item, but I wouldn't touch putting any real money into it.